There's a phrase people often use that sounds thoughtful, skeptical, and reasonable. You can't prove it didn't happen. At first glance, that sounds right. But taken seriously, it would make rational thinking impossible. So before going any further, let's clear something up right away. In many everyday situations, you absolutely can show that something didn't happen. For example, if I say I was at work yesterday, that claim has consequences. There would be emails or messages sent during the day. There might be calendar entries, time logs, or system activity. Other people might remember seeing or interacting with me. If none of those things exist, that absence matters. So the problem is not that we can never rule things out. The real problem is something more specific. Some claims are structured so that evidence no longer matters. That is what people are usually doing when they say, you can't prove it didn't happen. So let's slow this down and get precise. If a claim is true, it should have observable consequences. Those consequences do not need to be dramatic. They just need to exist. If I send an email, there is a record. If I attend a meeting, there are traces. If I was at work, there are signs. When a claim has clear consequences, evidence can support it or rule it out. That is how reasoning works. The trouble starts when a claim is defined in a way that avoids consequences altogether. Someone makes a claim. Evidence is requested. And instead of pointing to evidence, the claim retreats. The records were altered. The evidence was erased. It happened in a way that leaves no trace. At that point, the claim is no longer about reality. It is about insulation. This is where you can't prove it didn't happen enters the conversation. Not as a principle of good reasoning, but as a shield. Here's an example. Someone believes a small group is coordinating events behind the scenes. When asked for evidence, they point to unusual patterns or coincidences. When those patterns are explained in more ordinary ways, the claim adapts. The coordination is more subtle. The people involved are more careful. The lack of evidence becomes evidence of how well hidden it is. At no point does the claim risk being wrong. That is the red flag. A claim that cannot be tested cannot be corrected. And a claim that cannot be corrected does not become stronger with time. It becomes immune. This is where the burden of proof matters. The burden of proof is not a technical rule. It is a practical necessity. If I claim that something happened, it is my responsibility to show why that claim should be taken seriously. Saying you can't prove it didn't happen flips that responsibility. It demands that others disprove a claim that was never grounded in evidence to begin with. That is not skepticism. It is evasion. Notice how different this is from ordinary reasoning. If I tell you I was at work yesterday, you might believe me without much thought. Why? Because it is a common event, consistent with what you already know, and it fits smoothly into your understanding of the world. If I tell you I was secretly involved in an event that left no records, no witnesses, and no traces, your standards change, as they should. Extraordinary claims are not rejected because they are uncomfortable. They are rejected because they require extraordinary justification, and possibility alone does not provide that. This is where many arguments quietly collapse. Someone points out that a claim has not been ruled out. That may be true, but being unruled out is not the same as being supported. Reality does not owe every possible story equal consideration. Evidence sorts possibilities. Probability matters. This connects back to something deeper about how we think. Humans are very good at imagining scenarios. We are not nearly as good at weighting them appropriately. A scenario can be coherent and emotionally compelling while still being extremely unlikely. When people say, you can't prove it didn't happen, they are often mistaking imagination for justification. They are confusing the absence of disproof with the presence of support. So here is the principle that actually matters. If a claim has observable consequences, evidence can speak to it. If a claim has no observable consequences, evidence cannot move it in either direction. And if evidence cannot move a claim, belief in that claim is not rationally grounded. This does not mean we must have certainty. It does not mean we demand proof beyond all doubt. It means we care whether a claim is accountable to reality. Because without that accountability, anything can be believed and nothing can be learned. So the next time you hear someone say, you can't prove it didn't happen, pause. Ask what the claim would look like if it were false. Ask what evidence would count against it. If the answer is nothing, that tells you everything you need to know. Not about whether the claim is true, but about why it refuses to go away.